Hey guys, it's me, Pokemon Jabber HD, and today we have week 2 of the IPA. After our rousing week 1 win, we are looking to continue our great start, and I definitely like our chances since I do feel really good about the team, and well, not necessarily this team for this matchup, because for the second week in a row I'm facing a steel flying type when I have my, Excadrill here that doesn't get to be Excadrill because of course I had to face Celesteela and Skarmory in the first two matchups, which they're both in my division, so we will be facing each of those again. But regardless, I think that just this overall roster for this IPA run, it really excites me, and I am also happy to be able to face Bob and the Philadelphia Shuckles, or Bob and Fishy is the appropriate full name, but I actually, the last battle was on this channel and in another league, but I hexed him so badly that he had no shot to beat me, even though he actually had really cool prep because I had setup spam and he had like whirlwind roar spam. So I definitely know that he is a solid battler and he's just a good guy in general, so I'm always excited to be able to battle him, and hopefully this time not a haxy situation. But our team is unchanged from the last week. It is still Walrein, Excadrill, Mega Altaria, Mienshao, Latios, Crobat, Volcarona, Ditto, Rotom, and Mega Tyranitar. And Bob's team is Mega Venusaur, Garchomp, Skarmory, Melodic, Granbull, Scrafty, Dugtrio, Lickilicky, Comfey, and Rotom Heat. And when I'm looking at this matchup, obviously Dugtrio, you have to factor in what can be trapped, and so obviously that comes to mind in that I do have a good amount of levitating mons / flying mons, or just bulky stuff that doesn't really care. So those I don't really have to, like, Dugtrio doesn't actually bother my prep all that much, other than it definitely made me want to not use Mega Tyranitar nearly as much as Mega Altaria. But also, I mean, there's Skarmory there too, and Melodic that really can just, Mega Tyranitar can have a problem muscling through those. So I think that in general, it didn't necessarily, like, the trio didn't necessarily alter my prep a whole lot, although it definitely did for sure in my Volcarona and Excadrill sets that I will end up showing you. But other than that, I think that Latios just has great coverage for the team, being that it's almost similar to last week's, being that I can run T-Bolt for a bulky water and a flying steel type. So I think that definitely is nice. And then in general, a lot of my team is faster than his, so I think that definitely allows me to play a bit more offensively, as long as I find out what the Scarfer is early on. And so the first member I'm going to end up bringing is my Crobat here, with Brave Bird, Super Fang, Roost, and Taunt, and the Black Sludge with enough attack to 2-hit KO a fully defensive Mega Venusaur, and then the rest kind of just put into bulk and enough speed to outspeed Dugtrio. So I wanted this to be a bulky bet, but then I saw the calcs of how weak it is without investment, so I did have to invest into attack. But the main thing that this should do is just disrupt Skarmory, because obviously, as you can see, I don't have like Heat Wave or anything, but instead I can taunt it and Super Fang it down. And that's kind of the strategy against all the fat things, is even if I get burnt from a Melodic, it doesn't matter because I can just taunt Super Fang down basically everything. So this honestly just kind of helps break the fat of his team, since he does have a lot of fat mons, and I mean, it's awesome core on his part. Like, I think like Mega Venusaur Skarmory is already annoying as a heck to break, but then add in Melodic to to that mix, then it's just terrible. And then when you go down list, he still has the Grand Bull, the Scrafty, the Lickilicky. Like, there's so many fat things there. So definitely Taunt is nice against fat as well as Super Fang. Then next up we have the Mega Altaria, which, I mean, I think that this, I kind of wanted it to be more defensive, but since I saw that I only needed, at least for the speed tiering, the only thing I really wanted to outspeed for sure was like max speed, like Scrafty, just to make sure that I'm faster than most of the things that are going to be uninvested, and then I can just hit everything decently hard. Like, I'm not necessarily breaking the fat things, but I can hit the faster threats like Garchomp and Trio. Obviously, I can just knock them out easily, and Scrafty before it can get set up, because if it does set up, it can be an issue for me. And so Hyper Voice covers those, obviously Flamethrower for the Skarmory. And then Draco Meteor is mainly for the Rotom Heat, because this would be a switch in to me, or a switch in for Rotom Heat if it comes, and also Mega Venusaur, just so I can hit them decently harder. I'm not running a whole lot of investment in special attack. I mean, like, it's a decent amount just because I'm also modest, but it's not that hard hitting in all honesty, but it's just there for those things that, you know, resist the Hyper Voice Flamethrower combo, or at least where it's just not doing a whole lot of damage. So it's there just in case for, you know, a nuke or something, but I don't really see myself clicking it other than on those two mons. Then next up we have an Expert Belt Latios with Psychic, Dragon Pulse, Thunderbolt, Roost, enough speed to outspeed Garchomp, and then the rest in HP, which Psychic, Dragon Pulse, Thunderbolt covers the team. It hits a good amount of it super effectively, being the top 4 mons, which are all huge threats. And then obviously the only things that really switch in comfortably to this, in that I'm not doing a whole lot of damage, are just the Lickilicky, since I don't have a fighting move and it doesn't get one that's any good, and then like the 2 fairies and 1 Grand Bull and Comfey. So I figure that it can at least help with the main threats before I can maybe set up with Volcarona, or just break through with the combo of this special attacking and then the physical attacking that I'll have later on with Excadrill. So I think that just overall this kind of chips the things that get the really reliable recovery. Then next up we have Rotom with enough speed to outspeed the Rotom Heat, and just Dual Stab, Volt Switch, Will-O-Wisp, just because this is just the easiest thing I can switch into a Skarmory, as well as just in general it stops Melodic from being too annoying, as well as the Trio if it's like locked into EQ. So it's also just kind of like Lickilicky. If he's not running any coverage, then obviously it walls it, but for the most part I just kind of want it to do what it did last week, and then just full switch around, except that I don't want it to get worn down too quickly, because I don't see myself being able to get rid of hazards all that easily, since I could have brought Defog on this. However, I thought Will-O-Wisp might have more utility in just weakening whatever it is that is on me. Like if I want to weaken the Mega Venusaur, if I want to weaken maybe a defensive Garchomp, or just or like a Grand Bull or Scrafty. So I think that Will-O-Wisp is just more useful than Defog, and then I figured I could run it elsewhere. I actually, now that I'm looking at it, I have been bringing 5 potential hazard removers with a Volcarona, so it does look like I'm super prepared to get rid of them, but actually I'm probably bringing on the thing that has the hardest time getting it done, which is my Excadrill here, which, again, enough speed to outspeed Rotom Heat, and it is Choice Scarf for the Earthquake, Iron Head, Rock Slide, Rapid Spin. I almost put Stealth Rock over Rock Slide because I figured that it doesn't do much damage at all to Skarmory, but if Skarmory is, weakened, then I wanted a way to make sure I could, do some damage to knock it out. but this definitely should be able to revenge kill a lot of things, as well as type-wise, it helps with the fairies, and then it can hit rather hard in general. And this set had to be scarfed because of Dugtrio. Like, I thought about other scarfers, but when I saw that I did want to bring the Excadrill, it had to be Shed Shell or Scarf, and I figured Scarf was just more useful. And so I'm hoping that, as long as he's not Sash, Dugtrio, this doesn't get trapped by it in the sense that if I'm locked into EQ or Iron Head, it always kills, so I won't lock into Rock Slide or Rapid Spin until the Dugtrio is gone. Then lastly, we have the Volcarona with Charty Berry for mainly expecting maybe a Dugtrio to one-trap me, and then enough speed to outspeed the Rotom Heat again, and Fiery Dance Giga Drain kind of covers the team for the most part, in that if I'm boosting up, I don't think he'll be able to really do a whole lot. So I think that a bulky set can be pretty useful against this bulky team. I didn't want it to just kind of try to set up, and then just, if I don't get the knockouts, then I all of a sudden am just, it can't do much. So I think that if I'm boosting up with Fiery Dance after most likely one Quiver Dance, barring Master Scarfer being, I guess, the Trio or Garchomp. So I thought that this could maybe be more useful as a bulkier set rather than a standard offensive set. But yeah, I think that this should be a good battle, and feel good about my chances, and I'm obviously hoping that we can continue a great start, and I will be back with Team Preview. And we are back with Team Preview as Bob has decided to bring the Comfey, Skarmory, Dugtrio, Scrafty, Garchomp, and Lickilicky. So I definitely think that Crobat is amazing lead, because I can taunt the fat stuff, and I can Super Fang / Brave Bird each thing here, so that's definitely just something I want to immediately do, as he leads the Scrafty, so that's great. I would assume he's going to fear the Brave Bird. He actually goes for Fake Out, which is kind of weird since I could have Inner Focus, and I went for Super Fang anyway, not expecting this to stay in, but as I also am going to go for it yet again, but he stays in and goes for the knockoff. So I mean, good play, either predicting me or just knowing that maybe he could live. And so I do get the Roost off here because I'm assuming that he's eventually going to switch now. And I go for Taunt, as the Garchomp actually goes for the Stone Edge, revealing to be Scarfed. So that's unfortunate that my Crobat, that's so useful, gets weakened, but I am going to be able to switch out into my Excadrill knowing that it's Scarf locked. However, he does predict this correctly, but he does not predict that I am Scarfed, so the Iron Head catches him off guard and knocks out the Dugtrio immediately, so that's amazing. Now Skarmory, I'm expecting rocks to come out, so I want to go into my Crobat immediately so I can get healthier, and so I get in right before the rocks and I can Roost up, as he does go for the Brave Bird. Doesn't do very much damage, so I can just keep roosting, and I'm assuming he'll have like a Whirlwind, so he does in fact do that. And so then it brings me out into Volcarona, which is an interesting thing where I'm going to go for the Roost because I'm expecting him to switch out, but instead he actually stays in Brave Birds. So I'm assuming he actually has a plan here for that this is supposed to take on me, so I'm just going to go for the Fiery Dance, as it is indeed Occaberry. So I do get knocked out, but Skarmory is very weakened now, so 16% it's not going to do a whole lot against my team, and everything outspeeds it, so I can just go into my Altaria, get it Mega Evolved, and go for the Hyper Voice, not having to risk anything. And then he goes into the Comfey, as that lets me go into my Excadrill, which he does predict correctly with the Hidden Power Fire. And so I'm obviously going to scare him out, and I can just go for the EQ because that's just stronger, and that does a good chunk to Garchomp, but obviously Garchomp is faster than me, so I'm going to just go into my Rotom. I don't think it's super necessary, so I feel confident in that if he does go for EQ or anything else, it's not a big deal, even if this dies, but it wouldn't die to probably any one hit other than Outrage, which you would never go for, so I can just get the free Volt Switch as he's not going to stay in. And goes into Lickilicky, so I can go into my Crobat. I go for the Roost to get up healthier again as he goes for Wish, as most Lickilickys usually are the kind of cleric, so I go for the Super Fang just to make him, just to see if he would switch out, but he goes for Body Slam, so I'm starting to see it settle a bit, and so I go for the taunt, not realizing that this actually gets Oblivious, so my whole strategy here to beat this is invalid. So now I realize, oh, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought to beat this Lickilicky down, as I don't really have anything that actually does a whole lot of damage to it because it's so fast. So I go into my Rotom, I can Will-O-Wisp him as he goes for Toxic, so now I've actually seen that he has Wish, Body Slam, Toxic, so I'm thinking that he actually doesn't have a move to touch Rotom, so that's good to note, as then I can go into my Excadrill here, since I'm assuming he's just going to go for the Wish on like more or less every other turn, just because he wants to stay healthy. And I'm not worried about getting Body Slam, and I want to gauge damage here. I go for the EQ. Doesn't do a whole lot. I am risking the para here, but I'm not too scared of getting paralyzed, honestly, at this point. So I do then just keep going for the EQ yet again, because I think he's going to go for a Wish, and I kind of want to force him to use all his wishes, because at this point I'm honestly thinking that I'm going to have to just stall him out of wishes, because I don't really have a great way of beating this. And so I can just switch into the Rotom, as now that it's poisoned, it will always switch in, and he does reveal the last move being Protect on my Thunderbolt, so I do now know that this cannot touch my Rotom any further. Obviously I'm going to get weakened by the Toxic, but I can Volt Switch out. He could predict me to switch out and go for Body Slam, but it's whatever. I'm just going to go out into my Mega Altaria, as I can now gauge the special damage that it takes, or instead I can actually just see if he's just going to go for Toxic, which he does, because this gets my my Excadrill in, so I can just spin, since I know I'm going to be switching a lot. So I am risking again the paralysis of Body Slam, but he does go for the Wish instead, so that's fine with me. Now that rocks are gone, I can freely switch around over and over, as I can just bring in the Rotom. And actually I'll probably speed this up right now, because this does take quite a while, so I will go to the normal speed now, as I can Volt Switch out into my Crobat. He's going to go for Wish, and I can Roost up, get healthy, as he Body Slams. He does get the para, not the biggest deal, since I still outspeed Scrafty if he's bulky set, as I'm just Super Fanging to force Wishes, but I do, like I said, outspeed the bulkier Scrafties, so I do Brave Bird it, so that's down. And then he now goes into Garchomp, goes for Stone Edge, but that's a free switch in my Altaria, since it's bulky enough to take any one hit from it, other than like a Poison Jab, which I didn't think he'd go for. And then he goes into Comfey, as I can just taunt it, because I don't want it to set up and sweep me, which is very real possibility, as he goes for the Hidden Power Fire, and he does get the crit, but it's not the biggest deal in the world, because for me, honestly, I'm fine with going down as early as possible, because that just gets my Excadrill back in, and I can just go for the Iron Head, as he goes into the Garchomp, but the Garchomp does not live, so now it's just, I have to keep the Excadrill alive for the Comfey, and everything else is just kind of stalling out wishes. So that's, I'm just gonna switch around with a bunch of this stuff, so I'll even now make it faster, is that literally I'm just switching around a bunch to get rid of wishes, but he does actually predict me correctly to start doing that, so he's just throwing off Toxic. So now everything is poisoned, except I do have Roost on both the Latios and the Mega Altaria, and I do have the Volt Switch on the Rotom, so I can limit the toxic damages that I'm taking. And so anytime he comes into Comfey, Excadrill has to be my response to Iron Head it before it gets 2 set up, because if it does get 2 set up, I don't want to be in range of the Draining Kiss killing me with the priority, so I do Volt Switch out for the most part almost every time that my Rotom comes in. Otherwise, I'm just kind of wasting time with wasting wishes with each of the mons that otherwise, so anytime I think he's gonna wish, I don't mind staying in with Altaria or Latios, but for the most part, if Rotom's in, I just need to, Volt Switch out at some point, and so I'm just gonna keep switching around, and roosting up, and yeah, I know this is quite the boring thing, but since I forgot that I get Oblivious, that definitely made me I was not prepared for this properly. The only thing that really could do significant damage to this was Volcarona if I was set up already, so yep, just gonna keep Volt Switching around a lot. And like I said earlier, if Comfey comes in, Excadrill is definitely I have to Iron Head. I'm not risking any rolls with Earthquake and dying. Like, this is just not happening. Like, I can stall out this Lickilicky of Wishes, and I definitely will, because I want to win. So, I can also keep my differential up, despite everything being toxic, because of Wish only having 16 PP, and so I just need to keep doing enough damage to force him to go for those wishes. And so, this time though, I go for Hyper Voice, and it actually does enough to Comfey, and that's game over, since he literally can't touch Rotom, and he's going to take enough damage to where, and even Body Slam burned isn't going to do a whole lot of damage to my other mons anyway, so, I'm eventually just going to get him out of Wishes, like I said, like the plan was, and since he kept trying to aggressively switch in his other mons, which didn't quite work since they were not as bulky as Lickilicky, but I go into my Altaria yet again and just gonna roost up on the potential Protects and Wishes, otherwise just go for Hyper Voices, and eventually, I promise eventually I do kill this, but I won't get too ahead of myself, I guess. Well, I don't even remember how far it went, but Rotom, like I said, free switch, and it's funny enough that it's been toxic, it's come in a million times, and yet it's only lost like 30% since it did get toxic. But yeah, overall I guess I can start reflecting on this battle, and that definitely was underprepared for Lickilicky. That's abundantly clear, as this went so long. And then otherwise I think I played this really well, in that while I didn't necessarily expect Scarf Garchomp off the bat, it makes perfect sense because it's faster than Volcarona, but I think that I definitely, if I'd gotten Whirlwind into something else on the Skarmory, then I think Volcarona would have at least had a chance to do something. And finally, the Mega Altaria does kill the Lickilicky on turn 77. But I think that Comfey was definitely better against my team than I had thought initially, especially because I had Volcarona, Crobat, and Excadrill, but I saw, obviously over the match, those things got worn down, and I risked a bunch of paralysis on Body Slams with the Excadrill, so I definitely could have lost to that Comfey. Like, that was a very real possibility, so we do have a rematch since we are divisional opponents, and I will definitely have to be more prepared in that matchup, but thankfully we get to 4-0, so we are now 2-0, plus 9 differential, which is great, and I couldn't ask for a better start, really, and so hopefully we continue that next week and make a march to the playoffs and potentially a championship. Thank you for watching. Bye!